It was a little past midnight when Ethan Cole, a 32-year-old truck driver from Portland, turned onto the forgotten stretch known as Black Ridge Highway. His GPS had glitched twice that night, rerouting him through the old forest road. He didn't want to take it. No one did. But his dispatcher insisted it was the fastest route to the lumber mill up north. The highway was narrow, one lane cutting through towering pine trees. The deeper Ethan drove, the thicker the fog became. His headlights could barely cut through it. Static hissed on the radio, just a soft, whispery crackle, like someone breathing close to the mic. He turned the volume down. For a few minutes, there was only the hum of his engine and the sound of tires crunching over gravel. Then he saw it, a sign half buried in dirt, BLA Regi Silosid CNC 1987. Ethan frowned. Close, that can't be right, he muttered. But his GPS map still showed a blue line guiding him forward. He drove on. The forest pressed in on both sides. Branches reached over the road like dark hands. At one point, his truck lights flickered, once, twice, and then stabilized again. When they did, something appeared in the middle of the road. A figure, standing, right in the center of his lane. Ethan slammed the brakes. Tires screeched. The truck slid sideways. The headlights flared across a pale man wearing an old driver's uniform, cap tilted low, one arm hanging limply by his side. But the moment Ethan's truck stopped, the road was empty. No one there. No sound except the hissing engine. His heart hammered in his chest. Probably my eyes, he whispered, wiping sweat from his forehead. Just fog and light. He pressed the pedal again. The truck rolled forward slowly. After a few miles, he saw something else. A faint red glow through the trees, like taillights. Another truck. He accelerated to catch up. But as he neared, he realized it wasn't taillights. It was two red lanterns swinging from an old, rusted semi-truck parked on the side of the road. The logo on its trailer was faded, almost erased by time. Roy Becker Logistics since 1984. Ethan's stomach tightened. He'd heard that name before, a ghost story among drivers. Roy Becker, the trucker who disappeared after an accident on this very road in 1987. Some said his truck was never found. Others claimed it still roamed the woods. He pulled over, engine idling. The old truck's cabin door was half open, swinging slightly in the wind. Ethan called out, "Hey! Anyone here?" No reply. Only the creak of metal. He stepped out, flashlight trembling in his hand. Inside the cabin, dust covered everything. The wheel, the seats, even a coffee mug that had turned to stone. But what made Ethan freeze wasn't the decay. It was the CB radio on the dashboard. It was on, and it was whispering. Static first. Then, faintly, a man's voice. "There's someone on the road, but I can't see his face." Ethan stumbled back, breath stuck in his throat. The words repeated. The exact same transmission from Roy Becker's last night. He'd read about it once in a trucker's forum. The CB hissed again. This time, another line followed. "Get off the road." Ethan ran back to his truck, slammed the door, and locked it. His own radio, which had been dead for hours, suddenly crackled to life with the same voice. "You shouldn't be here." The headlights flickered again. And for just a split second, he saw it in his mirrors. A red semi-truck right behind him, engine growling, headlights blinding. He blinked, and it was gone. Ethan didn't wait. He floored the gas, speeding through the winding road, heart pounding like thunder. Branches slapped the windshield, fog thick as smoke. The GPS showed nothing but a gray screen, no signal. Then came the sound, a deep metallic horn echoing through the forest, long, heavy, like an air horn from a truck that wasn't there. He checked his mirrors again, empty. But the sound didn't stop. It grew closer, louder, until it felt like something massive was right behind him, pressing air through his chest. And then, "Benj!" Something slammed into the back of his trailer. The whole truck lurched forward. Ethan gripped the wheel, shouting. He could see lights flashing behind him, two enormous white beams tearing through the fog. He tried to radio for help, but the channel was dead again. Only one thing came through, a whisper so faint it chilled his spine. "You took my road." The next moment, everything went black. When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was silent. No engine, no headlights, no movement. Just the whisper of wind through the trees. His hands were still gripping the steering wheel. His seatbelt locked tight across his chest. The windshield was cracked, and a thin trail of smoke rose from the hood. He blinked hard, trying to remember what happened. The truck had been hit, but by what? He reached for the ignition. The key turned, but the truck wouldn't start. The GPS was frozen. The clock on the dashboard blinked 1200 a.m. again and again. Ethan pushed open the door and stepped out. His boots crunched against gravel, except it didn't sound like gravel. It sounded softer, almost like dirt. He looked around. The road was gone. He wasn't on asphalt anymore. His truck was resting between tall pine trees, deep inside the forest, like it had been moved there. "That's impossible," he whispered. "I was on the road and..." The fog hung thick and heavy. His flashlight flickered weakly. When he pointed it at the trees, the beam seemed to bend, as if the light itself didn't want to show what was out there. He checked his phone. No signal. Just before the battery icon faded, he noticed the time, 2:37 a.m. He'd been out cold for over 2 hours. Then came a sound. A faint click, metal against metal. It came from behind the trees. He turned quickly, breathing hard. "Hello, anyone there?" No reply, only the slow creak of something heavy shifting in the dark. Then again, click, click, hiss. Ethan's stomach dropped. It was the sound of air brakes, a truck's air system releasing pressure. But how could there be another truck here? The forest was too dense, no road, no tracks, nothing. The hiss grew louder. He took a few steps back toward his own vehicle. His flashlight caught something on the ground, tire marks. But they weren't his. They were older, deeper, burned into the dirt, like rubber melted straight into the ground. As he traced them with his light, he noticed something written on a broken road sign nearby. The paint was peeling, but the words were still legible. Roy Becker Memorial wrote. Ethan froze. The same name from the rusted truck earlier that night. He stepped closer to the sign, and that's when his flashlight went out. Darkness swallowed him whole. He tapped it, hit it, nothing. Then from behind him, a voice spoke. Low, broken, almost mechanical. "You found it." Ethan spun around. "Who's there?" The voice came again, this time closer. "You shouldn't have come here." The beam of his flashlight flickered on again, for just a second, and in that second, Ethan saw it. A man standing between the trees, wearing a faded trucker's uniform, soaked in oil and mud. His face was half hidden by shadow, but one thing was clear. His left arm hung twisted, like broken metal. Ethan stumbled back. Roy Becker. The figure tilted his head, almost smiling, then vanished. The forest went silent again. Ethan's pulse raced. He ran to the truck's cabin, slamming the door shut. He tried to radio for help, but the CB unit was dead. Then it clicked on by itself, static. And then a voice, his own voice. "Help me, someone, please." Ethan froze. The words coming through the speaker were his, the exact panic in his tone, but he hadn't spoken yet. He turned off the radio. It turned back on. "You crashed the same way I did." Now it wasn't his voice. It was deeper, sadder. And then another line followed, whispered so quietly he could barely hear it. "They never found my body." The air inside the truck grew colder. Frost crept along the windows. The steering wheel vibrated softly, like something was moving under the metal. Then the horn blared. Ethan jumped. The headlights flicked on by themselves, flooding the forest in white light. And there, directly ahead, stood the red semi-truck again, its engine idling, headlights glowing too bright to be real. He reached for his door handle, but it wouldn't open. The locks clicked on their own. The truck's gear shift jerked forward, even though his foot wasn't on the pedal. No. The truck rolled forward on its own, tires grinding over the earth. The headlights of the phantom truck in front began to fade. Not backward, but through the trees. as if inviting him deeper into the forest. Then, through the CB radio, the voice spoke one last time. "Follow the road, finish the route I never could." Ethan's truck stopped shaking. The forest went silent. Only the low hum of an unseen engine echoed through the fog. He sat there, gripping the wheel, staring into the endless trees, unsure if he was awake or dreaming. Somewhere in the distance, an air horn sounded again, long and mournful. And then, a whisper from the passenger seat. "You're not the first." Ethan turned. The seat beside him was empty, but the seatbelt was buckled. The forest didn't look real anymore. The fog had thickened, swallowing everything except Ethan's truck, and the glowing red taillights of the phantom rig ahead. For a long moment, Ethan just sat there. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. The sound of the idling engine wasn't coming from his truck anymore. It was echoing around him, as if the entire forest were alive with the sound of diesel. He told himself it was shock, that he was imagining things. But then the red lights in front of him blinked twice, like a signal. His instinct screamed, "Don't follow it." But his mind whispered otherwise. He had to know the truth. He had to know what happened to Roy Becker. He shifted into drive. The truck rolled forward through the trees, branches scraping against the metal sides like fingernails. The phantom truck ahead moved deeper into the fog, always just far enough to see, never close enough to catch. After a few minutes, Ethan noticed something wrong. The forest wasn't ending. The same trees kept appearing again and again. The same broken signpost, the same rock, the same fallen branch. He was driving in circles. This can't be happening. He slammed on the brakes. The phantom truck stopped too, instantly, like a mirror. Then its reverse lights flashed. It started backing toward him, slowly, deliberately. Ethan threw his truck into reverse, tires spinning, mud flying, but his wheels wouldn't move. The ground felt like it was holding him in place. The red truck drew closer until its headlights filled his mirrors, blinding him. The horn blasted, a long, low scream of metal and fury that shook the forest. Ethan covered his ears. The mirrors shattered. The windshield cracked again, this time from the inside. Then everything stopped. Silentness. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the phantom truck was gone. But something else had changed. The forest had vanished. He was back on the highway, or what looked like the highway. The yellow lines stretched endlessly in both directions, disappearing into darkness. No sky, no stars, just black. His headlights revealed a road sign ahead. It said Black Ridge, Mile 0. But he knew he'd been miles away from that point. He drove forward slowly, heart pounding. A few miles later, the sign appeared again. Black Ridge, Mile 0. He passed it a third time, and a fourth. He wasn't moving forward at all. Then the CB radio came alive again, hissing with static. A man's voice crackled through. "Breaker 1-9, this is Becker." "Anyone copy?" Ethan froze. "Roy Becker," he whispered. "If you can hear me, you're stuck too." The voice sounded distant, weak, like it was coming from another world. "You took the same road I did. Black Ridge never ends once you cross the line." Ethan grabbed the mic. "Where are you? How do I get out of here?" No response. Just static. He banged the dashboard. "Tell me how to get out." And then, faintly, almost drowned by the crackle, "Find my truck. Finish the delivery." The radio went dead. Ethan stared into the night. Somewhere ahead, the faint glow of headlights appeared again. Only this time, they weren't red. They were white, flickering like candles. He drove toward them. After a few minutes, he found it. An old 18-wheeler, rusted and half buried in dirt, its trailer torn open. The cab door hung loose, creaking softly in the wind. He climbed out and walked closer, flashlight shaking in his hand. The license plate read RBY213, Roy Becker's truck. Inside, the dashboard was covered in dust, except for one clean spot. Something had been recently moved. A logbook sat on the passenger seat. The last page had been torn out. The second to last entry read, Delivery 49, Route 13B, Black Ridge, Do No TNTR Cargo. Confidential. Ethan flipped the next page. Blank. But as he tilted it toward the light, faint words appeared, written in dried blood. It's still inside the trailer. He turned toward the back. The trailer doors were half open, chains dangling loosely. The air around them pulsed with cold, like something alive was breathing inside. Roy. Ethan called out. What's in there? No answer. Only a faint scraping sound from within. He gripped the door handle, freezing to the touch, and pulled. Inside was darkness thicker than night itself. His flashlight refused to cut through it. It was like staring into a hole that had no bottom. Then came the whisper. The same voice from before, echoing from inside the trailer. Finish the route, Ethan. Something moved. A figure stepped out, pale, tall, eyes glowing faint red like taillights. Not human, not alive, and yet wearing Roy Becker's name patch. It looked right at him. You took my place. Ethan stumbled back.
No, I just found you.
The figure took another step forward, boots heavy against the metal floor. You took my rote. Now it's yours. And before Ethan could move, the trailer doors slammed shut from the inside. The sound echoed through the endless highway, followed by the faint hum of an engine starting again. Somewhere in the dark, the phantom truck roared to life. The world had gone silent again. Ethan stood frozen before the closed trailer, breath fogging in the cold air. Inside, something moved, something heavy, dragging itself across the floor. Metal screeched against metal, followed by a faint whisper that sounded like dozens of voices speaking at once. Finish the delivery. Ethan's flashlight flickered. The batteries drained faster than they should have. He stepped back, but the air behind him shifted, like the space itself was breathing. Then, from the darkness inside the trailer, a hand pressed against the door. Pale, human, but wrong, too long, too thin, nails like glass. The door creaked open, an inch at a time. Ethan aimed the flashlight into the gap. What he saw wasn't cargo. It was a coffin, old, wooden, chained, and sealed with black wax. Symbols were carved all around it, jagged ancient markings that pulsed faintly as if alive. His throat went dry. What the hell? He reached toward it, but the moment his fingers touched the wood, every sound around him died. The wind, the trees, even the hum of his truck. Then, a voice. Not from outside, but inside his head. You opened my road, Ethan Cole. He stumbled backward, clutching his ears. Who's there? You delivered death itself. The coffin lid cracked. A blinding red light burst from within, flooding the trailer. Ethan covered his eyes, stumbling into the mud. When he looked up, the coffin was open, and something was gone. From inside came the sound of boots, slow, deliberate. A shadow emerged from the fog, wearing an old driver's uniform, cap tilted low, face hidden behind blood-stained glass goggles. It wasn't Roy Becker anymore. It was something wearing him. Cargo 49 has reached its next carrier. Ethan's heartbeat thudded in his ears. What do you mean next carrier? The figure tilted its head. This road feeds on the living. Every 40 years it needs a driver. It pointed to Ethan's truck. You replaced me the moment you turned onto this highway. Ethan shook his head violently. No, I'm getting out of here. He ran back to his cab, jumped inside, and turned the ignition. The truck roared, louder than ever, but the speedometer needle didn't move. The road stretched ahead, endless as before. The same sign appeared again. Black Ridge, mile 0 point. He slammed the gas pedal. The truck surged forward, and the forest around him twisted like liquid. Branches bent backward. The ground rippled. In his mirrors, the phantom truck followed. Red lights glowing brighter, closing in with impossible speed. Ethan shouted, "Leave me alone!" The CB radio burst to life again. Roy's voice, or whatever was left of him, whispered, "You can't leave. You're part of the route now." The sound of chains rattled in the background. The cargo must keep moving. Suddenly, Ethan's headlights caught movement ahead. A small cabin on the side of the road, the only building he'd seen in miles. He hit the brakes, jumped out, and ran for the door. Inside was a dusty diner, frozen in time. Coffee cup still half full, jukebox humming softly with no power. The clock on the wall read 2:17 a.m., but the second hand wasn't moving. He stumbled toward the counter. A newspaper lay there, dated October 17, 1987. The headline read, "Driver Roy Becker missing, truck found empty." Below it, a smaller line, "Highway 13B permanently closed after series of fatal accidents." Ethan's stomach turned. He was reading a story from almost 40 years ago. He looked up and froze. In the diner's reflection window, behind him stood Roy, or rather, his ghost, pale, glowing faint red, eyes burning through the glass. Ethan spun around. No one there. But on the table beside him lay something new, a delivery manifest, yellowed with age. His name was printed at the bottom. Carrier Ethan Cole, cargo 49, destination unknown. The page blurred with fresh ink, letters twisting on their own. He dropped it in horror. Then, outside, his truck engine started again, on its own. The headlights flickered through the diner windows. Ethan backed away slowly, heart hammering. "Please," he whispered, "I don't want this." Roy's voice answered from somewhere deep in the walls. None of us did. The floor began to shake. Coffee mugs fell and shattered. The jukebox blared to life, playing an old country song distorted by static. Ethan ran outside and froze. His truck was idling, but he wasn't in it. Someone else was behind the wheel. A man in a driver's cap, face obscured by red light. The phantom looked at him, one hand on the wheel, one on the horn. Time to finish the route. The horn blared, deafening, endless. The fog swallowed Ethan whole, and then silence again. The highway was empty. Only one truck drove through the mist, cargo 49, heading toward nowhere. When Ethan opened his eyes, he wasn't in the forest anymore. He was sitting in the driver's seat. But the world outside the windshield looked wrong. The fog was gone. In its place stretched an endless desert highway under a gray sky, flat and empty as far as the eye could see. No signs, no sounds, just the low rumble of the truck's engine. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard, 20:17 a.m., the same time he'd seen inside the diner. He tried the door. It wouldn't open. He hit the horn. Nothing. The CB radio crackled again, faint, broken. Cargo 49, approaching final destination. Who's there? Ethan shouted. Roy? The radio hissed. Then came another voice, softer, sadder. A woman's voice. Ethan Cole, you were never supposed to be here. He froze. The voice sounded familiar. Turn back, she whispered. Don't deliver it. The air grew cold. The windshield fogged up from the inside, and in that mist, words began to form, drawn by an unseen hand. Wow, you Kylie. Ethan grabbed the wheel. Then I'll drive straight through. He hit the gas. The truck roared forward, tires screaming across the asphalt. The sky darkened to black. Lightning flashed in the distance. But the strikes didn't hit the ground. They hung in the air like burning cracks in reality. The radio screamed with static. Dozens of voices now, whispering, crying, begging. Finish it. Deliver the cargo. He covered his ears. Shut up, shut up. Then, from the back of the trailer, a loud thud, once, twice. Then a slow dragging sound, like something moving toward the cab. He turned the mirror down, and his blood turned to ice. The coffin was gone. The back door of the trailer swung open as he drove. Inside, faint red light glowed, the same light that had haunted him since the beginning. He slammed the brakes, jumped out, and ran to the back. The desert wind howled, sand cutting his face. When he looked inside, he saw a figure sitting where the coffin had been. Not Roy, not the demon, a woman, pale, fragile, eyes soft but filled with endless sorrow. Who are you? Ethan asked. She looked at him, voice trembling. I was the first delivery. What does that mean? Roy Becker was ordered to transport me, my body. But he didn't know the truth. The cargo wasn't human. It was what came with me. She looked toward the horizon. The curse began with me. I died on this road in 1947, and I never left. Every driver who passes through becomes part of it. Ethan stepped closer. So how do I end it? Her eyes met his. You don't, but you can stop it from spreading. The wind howled louder, red lightning splitting the sky. Behind her, shadows began to move. Faces, hands, bodies pressed against the trailer walls, whispering, screaming to be freed. They're all drivers, all who tried to escape, she said. They keep the road alive. It feeds on them. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Then take me. Let it end with me. She looked at him, surprised. You'd do that? He nodded. I've got no one left out there. But if I keep driving, it'll take more people. More like me. The whispers grew louder, angry now. The shadows thrashed violently. The truck shook. It won't let you? She said softly. The road doesn't give up its prey. Ethan climbed inside the trailer and grabbed the wheel lock chain. Then I'll make it. He hooked the chain through the coffin's remains, wrapping it around the trailer doors. He looked back at her. She was fading like mist. Thank you, Ethan Cole. She touched his hand, and suddenly, for the first time, everything went still. The air was silent, the whispers stopped. Even the storm froze in place. Then the ground began to split beneath the trailer. A crack opened in the asphalt, glowing red from below. The road was collapsing, trying to swallow the truck whole. Ethan ran to the cab, started the engine one last time, and aimed for the edge of the desert. The voice on the radio screamed, "Dialivartaiko oro do." He smiled faintly, eyes wet with tears. Then I guess I'm not delivering anything anymore. He slammed his foot on the pedal and turned the truck sharply, directly toward the glowing fissure. The wheels screeched. The phantom lights followed, and then the truck plunged into the abyss. A blinding flash filled the highway, and the sound of the horn, long haunting, echoed one last time before everything went quiet. When the fog cleared, the highway was gone. Black Ridge no longer existed. Weeks later, a rescue crew found a lone signpost buried in the mud near Portland. On it, faded words could still be read. Black Ridge Highway closed since 1987. And carved just below, in fresh lettering, wrote delivered.